New Geometry Dash updates don't come out very frequently, so when they do, it's safe to say that at least in the sphere that Geometry Dash is a part of, it breaks the internet. I mean, as of making this video, 2.2 is not that old, and we're actually expecting 2.21 to release soon with a brand new daemon. Good things are up ahead. Although, when it comes to the big updates, what do you hear about? Oh, 1.9, it added the wave, or maybe 2.0, everything felt alive, or even 2.1, where everything got changed by the looks of it. Or most notably, as the memes for the 7-year wait kept on continuing, 2.2, where literally a bunch of stuff got added and the game was forever changed. But there's one update that I'm going to discuss briefly today that I truly do believe needs the light. It needs to be spoken about more, and that is Geometry Dash 1.8. Now, it's not ridiculous to say that if I was to ask the question, which I will, most of you guys wouldn't really be able to give a solid answer. And the question is, what was added in 1.8? What was changed? What did the game look like? Would you be able to tell me a good answer? I wouldn't blame you if you said no, because honestly, before the research went into this video, I couldn't really answer that question thoroughly myself. Now quickly, just before we continue this video, shout out to the members for supporting today's video. It's greatly appreciated. Geometry Dash 1.8 was the 8th update to release in Geometry Dash. It was released on the 7th of August 2014. Now when it comes to which icons were added, you can actually destroy icons on the main screen, which is a little fun thing that I do every now and then whenever I get bored. And then when it comes to the actual numbers, 4 new cubes were added, 2 new ships, 1 new ball, and 1 new UFO. And also there were 2 new colors added. I say 2 new colors, even though they look exactly the same. This is just because one's primary and one's secondary. And we'll definitely be explaining this later in the video, but I'll just mention that it was added. The duel mode was added, which I still suck at to this day. 2-player mode was actually added in this update, although would not gain popularity, despite it not being that popular even to this day, because Geometry Dash was actually not even on Steam at the time. So what are you gonna do? Play 2-player on the phone? And phones at the time were small? We're talking 2014, by the way. Yeah, I don't think so. Now, when it comes to the difficulty of the levels, they looked fairly different at the time. Back on Track was a normal, Polargeist was a hard, Dry Out and Base After Base were both harder, Can't Let Go, Jumper, Time Machine, Cycles, X-Step, Clutterfunk, Theory of Everything, Electroman Adventures were all insane. And then Electrodynamics and Hexagon Force, the brand new level which we will discuss soon, was also an insane. Now, something that we'll touch on later in the video, but once again, I'll just acknowledge it because this is a list of things that were added, was the editor preview mode, which is play testing your levels instead of actually going into the menu and clicking play. You can just do it with the brief gameplay method. Now, before we get into Hexagon Force, there's some little changes that were made, such as the settings, and I'll just flick up a screenshot right now. Flip 2-player controls, always limit controls, increased max undo redo, and disable explosion shake. Hexagon Force's start is pretty simplistic, although the color scheme that they use has gone on to just become iconic, I guess. I don't know, poor choice of words, but you get the idea. Whenever people see these type of colors mixed up, they're thinking of Hexagon Force, so I guess that's a positive. Also got to remember that slopes have been added within 1.8, so obviously that's going to be a design choice even when it's deemed as unnecessary, I guess. It doesn't look bad, although this isn't a part of the gameplay, it's just kind of there. Then once we get to the ship, it goes 2-speed, and although that this is very easy and nowadays simplistic, at the time this was ridiculous because once again, slopes were added. This is going to be the last time I discuss it, just going out of my way to talk about it, because a lot of these segments nowadays are simplistic. At the time, they were awesome. While keeping the same speed, we go into this ball section where we develop momentum thanks to the slopes. Although this ball section is short-lived, I'm a big fan of not only how to get the coin, but just what Rob used with what he had at the time for this segment. I'm a big fan of this. Then when it comes to this segment, this is just simply showing how slopes can be used for cube gameplay, and then that transitions us into the duel segment, which is pretty self-explanatory. Some segments have similar inputs, some do not, and this is easily one of the best introductions to the duel. But why is it so short-lived? My issue with Hexagon Force, and if you've seen my ranking video, I'm not a big fan of it. It's because the big selling point, right? That's the type of terminology I like to use. The big selling point for Hexagon Force is the duel, and for it to be this short-lived and to just focus on cube gameplay for most of the runtime of the level, I'm scratching my head wondering, why is that the decision to be made? And talking about cube gameplay over the duel, we have cube gameplay. Listen, I'm not that big of a fan of this. Yeah, it's literally just orb presses. Really? That's it? We're this deep into the game, we're on the game's 8th major update, and you're just hitting people with orb presses? I guess I'm unpopular when it comes to this opinion, because this just doesn't hit for me. Then leaving that, we go into a mini UFO section, which doesn't really have an awful lot going to it, but once again, it's just to show the illusions, or maybe making sections with, thanks to decoration, look harder than they actually are, because of the pointed segments, because of, once again, the slopes that were introduced. And we have ourselves probably the most iconic segment. If it's not the first duel, it would be the second duel. Once again, very short-lived, although I just don't like how fluid this momentum actually travels through the level. And I get it, I'm being quite negative when it comes to Hexagon Force, although not only is this my video, and I do get self-proclaimed opinionated within them, but I just believe that it comes from a place of love, and I believe that Hexagon Force is a big what-if / missed opportunity when it comes to selling 1.8. Maybe it's the reason why 1.8 is not remembered that fondly, but once again, popularity, time, we discussed that earlier. I mean, here we are, we're going into a basic ship segment with a basic coin, and then after that, it just keeps on going with this normal cube gameplay. Listen, it's awesome, it flows really well, but to just pollute the level with consistent level design like this makes this level very repetitive. Now, I'm a big fan of this dual mini ship segment because players at the time, this was a massive learning curve, because although we've seen how the mini reacts to slow speeds, this really emphasized it, and it taught the player that slow or faster speeds really manipulated mini gameplay much more than we thought. After that, it goes into a normal ship segment with a pretty basic coin, and then after that, the level is done. Now, we were hinting towards it earlier in the video, and I think that this last segment of the video is just going to focus on this. No, it's not going to be awfully long, as you can see from the runtime of the video, although it is super important for the long-term timeline of Geometry Dash. I think that this created, what would you call it? This is just off the top of my head, what, the creator revolution? I mean, we can just name a few levels, which we will. I mean, Silent Clubstep was made during this, and I understand the controversy, but now that it's officially a legitimate extreme demon, I mean, this is iconic, and this came out during 1.8. Now, bad example, so let's head on to something that actually would have used the editor. We have Dora Bay Basic 5 by Dora Bay. I mean, hopefully that's how you pronounce it, right? I'm not really watching too many of these videos because I like to not be influenced, and I like to make these videos off of my own personality and knowledge and passion, but it's levels like this. Even though it's 1.8, that truly set the benchmark and made Geometry Dash future-proof as we waited for the iconic 1.9, which I actually made a video discussing that update, which you guys should 100% watch. I mean, some of these levels are just unbelievably iconic. I mean, we have Flappy Hexagon here by Creator Cloud, and I'm not saying that the playtest was the reason that these levels exist purely, but it would have helped tremendously, and it also would have helped the efficiency and the enjoyability from the creator side of things. Despite not creating my own levels, it's a no-brainer. Everyone knows that convenience is king with these type of things. So Flappy Hexagon by Creator Cloud, another classic, came out in 1.8. I mean, yo, shout out Neptune. Everyone knows Neptune, and where did some of these bangers originate from? 1.8, because although in my opinion the most popular level from Neptune off the top of my head, TOE2 V2, was obviously 1.9, to be able to develop a basis with the editor, get nice and familiar, and still keep that same passion thanks to the convenience of this update, made Hexagon Force V2 a thing. And we're also not done with Neptune. Now, why is that? Because we also have simplistic levels, although by the same creator Neptune, such as Polargeist V2, and I love this level as well. Simplicity is not necessarily king. Convenience is king when it comes to what we're talking about, although simplicity is just personal value. I mean, I just love these levels. Being able to use what was available to you at the time and just make classic gameplay, especially when the game wasn't that popular, so you know that these were passion projects, really means something to me. People really forgot about this update. Sorry for kind of leaving you guys for 2 weeks with no uploads. I've been extremely busy, but if you guys did enjoy today's video, show your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.